Transcripts and recordings of the podcast may not be used for any purpose without the direct written permission of the podcast owner. Welcome to Light It Up, a podcast about resilient women balancing motherhood, their careers, personal lives, and all of the challenges that come along with being a superwoman. Each week, you'll be motivated to take action to lead, inspire, transform, and empower. Now, here's your host, Dr. Aginah Musherah. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Light It Up. I am your host, Dr. Aginah Musherah. I am very excited about this week's episode because I have a very special guest. I think we may go back probably 15 plus years, probably 20 at this point. So former colleague of mine who is a phenomenal educator, inspirational speaker, leader, and inspirational author, Dr. Cheryl D. Watkins. How are you?
I am absolutely wonderful. Thank you for reminding me of how long we've known each other. And we do go way back. So it's wonderful to be here. I'm excited just to talk to you. So yeah, everything's great. I'm good. You're good.
Yes. And I'm excited for you to be joining me today. I have the full disclaimer. We used to work for the same organization, Chicago Public Schools, but we have a lot more in common. We both earned degrees in education from the same institution, the University of Illinois, Chicago.
Yes.
And let me just tell everybody, we did not plan to wear the same colors, but we were just in tune. And
Vibing.
that's right. And we'll actually get into, in today's conversation, the significance of the color purple that we are wearing today. So I just I want to kind of dive right in to give you an opportunity to share with the audience a little bit about yourself. I did mention that you are an educator and a speaker, a leader. I know currently you have your own consulting company, your firm, after you've retired from Chicago Public Schools. But why don't you tell the audience just a little bit about your professional history in terms of being an instructional leader and educational administrator as well.
Wow. Listen, we don't have enough time for me to walk back all of that, but I will tell you that I started in education when I was a little girl. I would play school on the back porch of the building where we lived when it rained. So most people were singing "Rain, rain, go away, come again another day." And I was saying, "Rain, rain, please stay. I'll play school all the day." So it was really then that I fell in love with teaching. My teachers would give me the papers that couldn't quite be passed out to students, that came off the mimeograph machine, where when it came off the machine, you would pick it up and you would smell it. You'd hold it to your nose, you could smell it. They were purple.
Yeah.
I think we were low-key getting high then.
Yes.
Didn't really know what we were doing, but that was happening. They would give me those papers and I would bring them home and put them in a stack and wait for it to rain and then go out and play school. So I've been an educator for quite some time.
Okay.
Formally and informally. But I started with Chicago Public Schools. Oh my goodness, I was with CPS for more than 3 decades. And every position I held, whether it was a special ed teacher, which is how I started out, moved to being a teacher facilitator, where I led professional development for teachers, for teacher assistants, for parents across the district. And then moved from that to an administrator at central office in the Office of Specialized Services. It was called OSS then.
Mm-hmm.
And left there, became an assistant principal, wrote a proposal to start my own school, and became principal of John J. Pershing West Middle School. And I wrote that proposal under Renaissance 2010. So when people were bad mouthing Ren 10, I was the champion. I was the cheerleader because it was absolutely everything I needed for it to be. Gave me the opportunity to build a school for kids based on my own experiences.
Mm-hmm.
Every conversation that I had had with an educator, no matter where I was, I would file that knowledge away and say, when I get a school, that's what I'm going to do. And so Renaissance 2010 afforded me the opportunity to do just that. So I became a principal. I was an instructional support leader within Network 11,
Mm-hmm.
then got promoted to be deputy chief of schools. And then the last position I held for Chicago Public Schools was chief of schools in Network 13, the far, far south side of the city, the side that people typically don't even think about nor remember. My schools went as far as the Riverdale border
Mm-hmm.
to the south. And then if you stood with one foot on either side of the street on Indianapolis Boulevard, you would be in Chicago and Indiana. So as far east as that. So just a bunch of great schools, a bunch of great school leaders and teachers. And that was a dream. It was absolutely fantastic. But I thank you for mentioning that I do lecture. I am adjunct at 2 universities in Chicago, National Louis University and also Northwestern University. So I'm very happy and proud to represent both of those educational entities, because I believe that they prepare teachers, teacher leaders, and leaders, school leaders, so phenomenally well that, it's just an honor to be right there with them. And the last thing I think I would share is I am in seminary. I am a seminarian. Yes. I attend Trinity Evangelical Divinity School, where I am studying to become a chaplain. I
Wow.
would love to be a chaplain in a hospital where
Mm.
there are medically fragile children. So that's my latest venture, the one
Okay.
I'm most proud of, in addition to starting my own consultancy, Monarch Education Consultants. So very happy about all of that.
Well, as you were walking me through down memory lane, but introducing yourself to the audience, I was just thinking about all of the ways in which our paths kind of crossed, because I too also worked in the Office of Specialized Services. But I think I had the most interaction with you when you were at Pershing, because during that time I worked in human resources and I was responsible for recruiting special education teachers and the clinical staff. But then I was on the other side of the coin as well during those times. When we were faced with school closings and layoffs. So that was, for me, the downside in terms of my role with Chicago Public Schools. But I always viewed you as such an inspirational leader, because I could tell just with your interaction with your students and your staff that you were certainly there for the right reasons. And as we are in these challenging times where we are facing a national shortage of teachers and individuals who aspire to go into the field, I just hope that someone who's listening will kind of, look at your enthusiasm, how you're still, even after retirement, able to talk about your experience with such a pleasant smile. So,
Yes. Listen, you brought up the school closings.
mhm,
That probably was one of the most difficult periods of my life.
mhm,
And I remember sitting in the meeting where our then chief said, your school is going to be closed. I thought, I can't believe this. It was something that I thought very little about because we were really doing well.
yeah,
We had high test scores. People were clamoring to get in, to get their children in. It was a great, great, great school. And I remember having to go back to the school that morning and tell my staff.
mhm,
And I put on the bravest face that I could and shared the information and watched as teachers crumbled,
yeah,
and really stayed there in good spirits and tried to help them navigate what their own futures would look like.
mhm,
I started then also writing a little piece that I titled, "I Will Not Cry Until the End of June,"
mm,
and wrote about all the successful things that had happened at Pershing West. We became the first school to win the Having a Ballroom dance competition. My students could ballroom dance. They
mm,
could waltz and foxtrot and
mhm,
swing and, oh my goodness, all of that. We had the only middle school
yeah.
who had an archery team.
Archery. I was just about to say
We
that.
had the
Yes.
only one. And listen, we did so doggone well. We'd go downstate and we'd take second place every year because there were only two teams. But we would have a ball. The kids loved archery.
Mhm,
So many opportunities that we provided for kids and for teachers.
mhm.
Um, Three of my teachers now have earned doctorate degrees.
Wow.
Um, One of them is still here in the city of Chicago, working to support children.
Mhm.
Another is at the University of Chicago. She is a professor. And then another just got an appointment at Rutgers.
Oh,
I'm
wow.
like, yeah. So our motto was to nurture a society of leaders.
Mhm.
And we did that not just for students, but for teachers. And we supported parents as they pursued their own life's missions and goals. So that was a wonderful time. It was really, really wonderful.
Now, during that time, though,
Mhm.
and the reason for our conversation today, one of the reasons for our conversations today, you also, outside of your professional life, um, were a caretaker to your mom,
Yes.
who um, who battled Alzheimer's. Um, how First, let's kind of talk about um, how that played out for you in terms of realizing that um, your mother was ill, with the diagnosis, and then how you were able to navigate still going to work, showing up every day to be a leader in that building and meeting the expectations of your staff, central office that had requirements of, principals and administrative leaders,
Mm.
and then trying to balance dealing with your mom's illness.
Yeah. So Alzheimer's is sneaky,
Mhm,
I say. And it happened like the snap of a finger. My mom was always very organized, very social, very engaging, all of those things. That was my mother. And so we went one day to get our city stickers. I won't forget this.
mhm,
I remember watching my mother as I dropped her off in front of the facility. And I went to park the car and I thought, wow, she's moving kind of slow.
Mhm.
I didn't think anything of it. I'm like, she didn't say anything was aching her, but she's moving kind of slow. We went in and she said, where do I go? And I said, I'm sorry. She said, well, where do I go? I said, Ma, right there to that window. I mean, it was a very casual, like, are you kidding me?
Mhm.
So she did, made her purchase. I made my purchase. We left, and that was it. It came time to put the sticker in the window, and my mother could not find her city sticker. And I thought, well, now that's odd. Ma, you don't lose anything. What do you mean you can't find it? And she said, well, I can't find it. And since I can't find it, you must have taken it.
Mm.
And I thought, this can't be happening. I'm like, what do you mean I must have taken it? I would never steal anything from you, Ma. What are you talking about? And she was serious. And my oldest sister was standing there. I was standing there. I started tearing up and said, something's not right. I remember going home. I called my then chief because I was a principal, and I was in tears. I know this poor man probably thought, what are we going to do with Watkins? She's falling apart, because I actually was.
Mhm.
And I said, I've got to take a leave of absence. There's something wrong with my mother. And he said, whatever you need to do, it's okay. Take the time that you need. And my older sister and I took her to a doctor's appointment. The nurse in the clinic happened to be one of my mother's former students. My mother was an instructor at Dawson Technical Skills, and so part of City Colleges of Chicago.
Mhm.
And when we entered, she looked, because my mother didn't recognize her, did not greet her the way that she normally would. And she looked at me and she said, no, no. And she walked away in tears.
Mhm.
We got into the doctor's office, and her doctor, who had known her for many years, just shook his head and said, you've got to take her here. So it was just devastating. It was devastating. This very bright woman, this sharp dresser, honey.
Mhm.
You don't know how to dress until my mother has styled you. The person who I'd go by at her house in the morning, she lived right around the corner from me, and let her give me the once over. And she would say, that does not look good on you. Don't wear that again. Right. That's what my mother would do. That's who she was for me and to me.
Mhm.
It happened. It was like a thief in the night.
Mhm.
And so I did not take a leave of absence,
Mhm.
but I then started trying to figure out what the heck this whole Alzheimer's thing was.
Mhm.
Mostly you'd hear people say, oh, they have old timers.
Yeah.
And I'd say there could not be any kind of a disorder or a disease called old timers. Let me find out what this is.
Right.
That's what I did. Started reading on it. My sisters started researching, and that's when, we found out there's no reversing it. You can take medication to slow it down, but once you've entered that first stage, you're in it.
Mhm.
And that's what we had to address and deal with.
Wow.
Yeah. One of the benefits of my mother having Alzheimer's is she didn't know when my school got closed, which is
Mm.
beautiful. So
Mm.
that was a hurt I don't think she would have been able to take. I
Yeah.
think she would have led the letter writing campaign. She would have been on the picket line. She would have been petitioning the mayor. She would have done anything that she needed to do for that not to have happened. So, we spared my mom some stress,
Mhm. Yeah.
but it was a difficult time. It was.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'd go to work and think about my mom all day.
Yeah. So during that time, how were you how were you able to cope? What type of support system did you have? I assume it was you and your sisters, taking care of your mom. What type of support did you all have in place as you were going through this with your mother?
Yeah, so I have three sisters, which is wonderful because we each took a shift.
Mhm,
My oldest sister lived with my mom, so she did bear the largest brunt of responsibility, which she will tell you right now, was a pleasure to do.
mhm,
Um, and so it was the four of us. I have a really good friend who was already retired, who I said, when my mom had to have a little stay in a nursing facility, I said, hey, can you go and visit my mother during the day? And he said, sure, I can.
mhm,
So he'd go and visit her if she was in the nursing home or if she was in the hospital, he'd go and visit. Um, I went first thing in the morning to the nursing facility. I was the first person she saw. I made sure she was dressed well, that her hair was combed, and I'd wheel her into the cafeteria, the dining hall, and ask her what she wanted for breakfast. She would tell me, and she would sometimes say, now, why are you here so early?
mm,
You know you've got to go to work. Don't you dare be late. Don't get fired. You know you need that job. And so we'd laugh about things. And I would be there very early, though. I'd
mm,
leave her there and I'd go off to work. But my friend would go and he'd visit with her during the day.
mhm,
My older sister, Donna, would go and pick up my oldest sister, and they'd go during the day. When I left work, my youngest sister and I would tag team and spend the rest of the night there. So I was often the last person she saw and the first person she saw.
mhm,
Um, and it was, again, our absolute pleasure.
mm,
So we didn't want our mother in a nursing facility. My oldest sister, Diane, said, Mama would not have wanted that. Although my mother was real flippant,
mm,
real sassy and jazzy. And she'd say, look, don't spend no time, put me on in that nursing home. I don't care. But, we knew that that really wasn't the truth.
right, right.
Um, so we redid her house, pulled up the carpet, um, had the floor sanded nicely so that a wheelchair could roll very easily, so that she would not have any tripping incidents, uh,
Mhm,
and prepared her home for her to return. And she did.
mhm,
And we then had someone from the Department on Aging who came for 4 hours. But there was never a moment where there were not two people with my mother. So we hired someone to also be there. My sister did take a leave of absence from work, my oldest sister.
mhm,
And when she went back to work, that's when we hired the second person. And we continued that shift. And so we were each other's support. We
mhm.
would gather there and spend time on Sundays with her, and just all of us there cracking jokes, being silly, laughing. Sometimes my mother would say, what's all that noise? And we'd say, nothing, Ma. Like we were caught as little children, like we're not doing anything.
Mhm.
And we just really supported each other.
Yeah. I'm just curious, how old was your mother when she was diagnosed
Yeah.
with
She was,
Alzheimer's? Was she pretty young or?
I think 70s, anything, in the 70s, I think that's young. And I think it's
Yeah.
probably because I'm getting closer. Like, oh, it's so young. It's young.
Yeah.
But yeah, she was in her 70s. She was,
Mhm.
mid 70s. And
Okay.
so her bout started around 2012
Hmm.
and then lasted until 2017.
Okay.
So a little over 4 years,
Okay.
almost five, which is no time
Right. Yeah.
really for
Yeah.
Alzheimer's. That initial stage lasts for a while.
Hmm.
That middle stage is really the bulk of the time. But that ending stage is usually a little bit quicker,
Hmm.
where the individual is more dependent upon help and support.
Hmm.
But so, yeah, it was a relatively short time. And I thank God for that. I
Yeah.
do. I
Yeah.
thank God for that.
Because I tried to do, try to always do my due diligence in terms of research, and I did came across some stats showing that, um, in particular for Black Americans who are age 70 and older, it's about 21% who, are living with Alzheimer's. And I too, I have a friend whose mom is battling, and I just, you want to try to be as supportive as you possibly can, um, in terms of just being there. Like, if they need to talk, if they need to get out, or what have you. Um, and it seems like, as I was listening to you share your experience with your mom, that it's kind of, in some instances, all of a sudden, there's something that happens where you're like, that's not right. Um, and it's somewhat difficult to kind of pinpoint, even if you're trying to think back, well, did I miss something? Was there, a time in which my parent was, displaying some type of sign or symptom that there was something that wasn't quite right. Um, when you all were caring for your mother, did the doctors, um, I guess, what type of information did they give you all when with the diagnosis, in terms of how to prepare or how to move forward as you were preparing to care for your mom as she was battling?
Let me tell you, I'm going to go back to something you just said.
Mhm,
The the signs.
mhm, mhm,
We didn't recognize any sign, nothing. But in writing the book,
mhm,
I started remembering, and which is why I wrote it, so that I could not just release it for myself, but release her from any any hold that I could have had on her. I then identified the signs. So the Alzheimer's organization is a phenomenal place, a repository of resources.
mhm.
I started doing more research after my mom passed than I did while she was alive.
Yeah.
The 10 signs, the 10 symptoms were there. They were spaced out. It actually started 2011, at the end of 2011. My mother had a car accident in 2011.
Mhm,
And my mother, again, independent woman, like, girl, I don't need you to do that for me. I'll do that for you.
mhm,
Right? That kind of sass. Didn't buy a new car. And I kept saying, Mom, when are you going to get a car? I'll get one when I want to. I'm like, well, honey, you better get you a car because
mhm,
you're renting now. And, this kind of thing. We finally went to go get the car. And again, I looked at her and I thought, my mom's not going to be driving too much longer. Don't know where that thought came from.
mhm,
Um, Again, very atypical for her. And then by 2012, just that short period of time. But in writing the book, I was able to identify each of those symptoms, each of those signs. My mother displayed them all.
wow.
That was heart-wrenching
Mhm,
to realize. Um, as far as doctors assisting us, listen, um, I had power of attorney, healthcare power of attorney, and I'm telling you, I fired a doctor. I
mhm,
told my sisters what I was going to do,
mhm,
but I fired him because I thought that he didn't have my mother's best interest at heart. Um, and it was very easy for me to do. Like, I never want to see him again.
mhm,
Don't have him in this room. Don't have his name on anything related to my mother. I don't care who you get, but
mhm,
it won't be him. So defending her to the very end. Um, so there was one doctor at Little Company of Mary,
mhm,
was very, very supportive. As my mother was entering into the death process, I said to him, I said, is it time? Should we be making plans? And he looked at me and he said, yes. I said, thank you so much.
Mhm.
I appreciated his honesty.
Mhm.
I appreciated all the time he took answering my questions. I'm a very curious person. And it was really more the social worker who
Mm.
was really resourceful and helpful. The chaplain, which is when chaplaincy got planted into my mind. Forget about all the years of watching MASH and Father Mulcahy.
Yeah.
Wasn't real. I'm not in the army, wasn't
Yeah.
real. But the chaplain who said, I'm available if
Mhm.
you need me.
Mhm.
Uh, that person helpful. Yeah, hospital staff
Mhm.
helpful, supportive. Nothing though in the way of educating us about Alzheimer's. I don't remember us receiving much.
Mm.
Now, definitely I know that Alzheimer's falls underneath the umbrella of dementia.
Yeah.
So having, that kind of knowledge, and 60 to 80% of people who are identified as having dementia actually have Alzheimer's. Like, that's a sobering number.
Mhm.
But knowing that Alzheimer's is the 6th leading cause of death in the United States, behind an accident, behind a heart attack, you've got Alzheimer's. And also knowing that the numbers are increasing in the African American and Latino communities, and that in the African American community, we're more hesitant to engage in research studies
Mhm.
because honestly, we're still thinking, well, first of all, this is our business.
Right.
Don't you take our business outside of this house.
Mhm.
One thing. Two, we remember very vividly the Tuskegee issue.
Absolutely.
We haven't forgotten that. We
Mm.
haven't forgotten that.
Yeah.
And the third thing is, honestly, we fear the responses. We don't want to go to the doctors because we don't want to know. And so we just think that if we keep moving along, oh, it's just an ache, or it's just a pain, oh, we keep moving along, everything will be okay. We don't need to go to the doctor. We don't need to do anything other than keep living.
Mhm.
So we kind of get in our own way
Yes.
related to advancements, and that's a little disconcerting as well.
What would you say to someone who has a family member that is battling Alzheimer's, or where they think that there's a possibility that their family member may have Alzheimer's, as far as um, trying to arm themselves with enough information and resources to
Yeah.
get through?
It's important to get to the doctor. And even if they don't want to go, my mother did not put up a fight. By this time, I mean, again, it happened so quickly, where gone, you know, yeah, just absolutely gone. She didn't put up any kind of a fight. But when we went to the memory clinic, that's what they
Mhm.
called it,
Mhm.
um, they walked in, a team of doctors walked in, said, hello, Miss Emma, how are you? She said, I'm fine. How are you? And they said, oh, we're great, right? One of the doctors said, do you know what the date is? She said, of course I do. Do you? I'm like, Mom, like, cut that out. And
Yeah.
she said, well, she asked. And I said, she sure did. Um, funny little things like that, funny little stories like that, but that were very telling.
Mhm.
And that, it was very quick to identify that this is the early stage, this is the first stage.
Mm.
And so getting your loved one to the doctor as quickly as you possibly can is critical.
Yeah.
Um, Listen, there's so much more. There's so many other things. I just shared with someone recently Don't be afraid to harvest as many memories as you can. Ask the questions that you want answers to. So I shared that I'm a curious person. I was always asking questions and always writing down little notes because I'm going to put this in a book one day.
Mm-hmm.
I ask a lot of questions. I have a lot of answers floating around in my head, tucked away in little notebooks and things like that. But almost every day I think of a new question that I'd want to ask. And mom is not here to answer it. Dad's not here to answer.
Mm-hmm.
So ask as many questions as you possibly can. Hey, talk to me again about the day I was born. What did it look like? Talk to me about your education. Hey, what was my grandmother like? Any question that you possibly can, I would engage them in conversation and ask. Dr. John Swinton, who is really, he's a theologian,
Mm-hmm.
but he specializes in, Alzheimer's patients and Alzheimer's care. He
Mm-hmm.
says, Alzheimer's patients don't forget us. We forget them.
Mm-hmm.
Don't forget that your mom is your mom. Your dad is your dad. Don't forget that your loved one is your loved one. Continue to spend time with him or her. Play music if they liked music. Play music, dance with them, keep them in the manner in which they would have kept themselves. That was huge for us. I took my mom to the hair salon.
Mm-hmm.
I did her nails, took her to get her nails and her toes done. Like that was what we did. We continue to do that. I
Mm-hmm.
continue to shop for her. Um, we made sure she was clean, bathed. Again, we all sat in the hospital, watched them as they turned our mom, and they told us turn her every 2 hours. We did that
Mm-hmm.
so that when she did have to go to the emergency room, one of the doctors in the ER said, I've never seen one like this. I said, one what? He said, an elderly patient. She looks beautiful. Her skin is beautiful. I said, okay, so here's what you need to know. First of all, it's not a one. That's my,
Right.
I'm her daughter. That's how she's supposed to look. I was livid. Why wouldn't you expect her to be beautiful?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because she has Alzheimer's, because she's, slowly dying, it still doesn't mean that you can't love on your parent, your loved one. And so I encourage that. I encourage it.
One thing, just to kind of go back, because something that struck me, and I am so glad that your mother had clearly had an estate plan where she had identified someone as power of attorney, because had she not, right, and then was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, you would not have been able to easily terminate a doctor from caring or being assigned to your mother. And that is something that I don't want to just say in our community, but estate planning is something that I think oftentimes people will say, I've got time for that. And I don't have to worry about that right now. But you all at least had that in place.
Aginah, we did not.
You did not?
My mother did not.
Okay.
Listen to me.
Okay.
My mother was from the South, old school.
Mm-hmm.
I bought my burial plot in 2008. I said, Mama, do you want me to get one? No, take care of that when I'm dead. Do not do that now. I'm like, okay. So I bought my burial plot. When when I first suspected that it was Alzheimer's, that there was something wrong,
Mm-hmm.
I was having a conversation with my insurance agent,
Mm-hmm.
and she said, you've got to get medical power of attorney. My mother could still write her name at that time, and I
Okay.
did. I already had access to her finances
Mm-hmm.
that she prepared for, which is also why we know she knew that something was a little different.
Mm,
because she had that conversation with me and I had access to her accounts. But she did not want it. But
mm,
I tell you, Monday, I updated my own trust. I can't stress estate planning enough.
yeah.
I have a medical power of attorney. I have my finances, it's already taken care of.
Mhm.
You've got to do it.
Yeah, you
It's
do.
unpleasant. Nobody wants to, but I can tell you, sitting at the cemetery, my sisters and I, we had been at the hospital. My mom had passed. We went right to the cemetery. No, I'm sorry. I think we went. No, what did we do? We went right to the cemetery. I apologize. We went to the
Mhm,
cemetery, and the gentleman said, well, Miss Watkins, you already have a plot. And I said, yeah, go ahead and put my mom there. It was right next to my grandmother, my
mhm,
paternal grandmother. I
mhm.
said, use mine, put my mom there, and I'll just buy another one. And I looked at my sisters. I said, do you guys want me to buy your plots? They're like, no, that's too creepy, Cheryl. I said, oh, okay. So I asked the gentleman, I said, how much is a plot now? It had quintupled from when I bought mine. My sisters looked at me and said, yeah, go ahead and get ours. So we were there cracking jokes. I'm like, oh, now you want me to get it. Now you want it. Now you want
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
So, something good came out of that.
Mhm,
We're taken care of. We're all in the same little area. But it took my mother passing and
mhm,
us sitting there because none of us would do it alone. We
mhm,
wouldn't say, this is for you, go ahead and do this. No, we didn't do that to each other.
mhm,
We
mhm.
did everything together. And
Okay.
so it's important. It's
It
important.
it is very, very important. I know I had a very difficult time going through estate planning process myself. I started when my dad passed away in 2019. And that's where it hit me. You need to do this. And I think I was 42 years old.
Yes.
Um, because my frame of thinking prior to that was, well, I have my insurance policies, my children are my beneficiaries, but didn't really think about it beyond that point. And in fact, when my son and daughter turned 18, the first thing we did before they went to college was saw an attorney so that I would have medical health care power of attorney.
Yes,
Um, and just introducing them to that process at 18 years old, because I told them, you're adults, you know,
absolutely.
so we need to go through that. It's difficult to think about, you know, your expiration, but here's the thing, we all are going to expire.
Every last one of us. And listen, I had a party
Hmm.
and had my insurance agent and an attorney come. And that's what we did. Now, you all have eaten sufficiently. You liked that, didn't you? Yeah, it was good. Now let's get down to business.
Yeah.
And I felt like I had to.
Hmm.
This is what is needed.
Yeah.
Don't let this moment pass you by. We could walk out of here and get hit by a car, God forbid anything so drastic,
Hmm.
but it definitely could happen.
Yeah.
It Yeah, I've been this way all my life. I'm not kidding you. I can't tell you how many revisions I've done to my own obituary.
Hmm.
Um, when the doctor said it's time to make the plans, my sisters and I gathered in the family room, and I said, is there anything you all would like in the obituary for mama? And my sister Donna said, we know you already did it, so let us see it. And I said, oh, as a matter of fact, I did. And I pulled it out of my bag and I said, would you like to see yours? And she said, no, no, I don't want to see mine. But I am that way. There
Hmm.
is really still no preparation for this.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
no preparation, but I just want to make it as easy as I possibly can on
Mhm.
those who have to take care of, the business for me.
Right.
Yeah. I just want to do that. So yeah.
That was heavy, Cheryl.
I know. I know. I know. So I feel like I should,
Ooh.
I don't know. What would you like for me to do? You want me to sing? You want me to rap? What you need? Because
No, 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 no.
yeah. Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
yeah.
but here's the thing, we have to have those hard conversations,
They are hard.
and they are hard.
Mhm.
Um, but it is reality that we all have to face, no matter how many times you try to put it off, you have to face it because, and I just revised actually my trust. Um, and I will probably have to revise it again, I'm sure, so I'm prepared for that. But I will tell you, one of the most difficult decisions that I had to make, and I think maybe it was too soon for me in terms of the loss that I had experienced, because I had two significant losses back to back within an 11-month period.
Wow.
It
Mhm.
was hard for me to make a decision on whether I wanted to be cremated or buried. And I told my attorney, I can't make that decision right now. Can we just write something in and let whomever has power of attorney make that decision? Because I can't make it right now. But then I came back to it,
Yes.
and had a conversation with my children. Like, I engaged in these difficult conversations with them because I want them to be aware of what my wishes are beforehand. So they're not just reading it, so they'll be prepared. So I've asked the questions like, don't you want me to sit like in an urn, or you get a pendant or something, so I'm always with you? So I try to,
Okay. You were creative with it. I applaud you for that
yeah,
though.
yeah,
And for engaging your children in that conversation. There are so many people who don't. And I think it's just a travesty.
yeah.
Um, my family knows. I don't know. Well, maybe they don't, maybe they, think, oh, that's just Cheryl talking.
Hmm.
I do. I want a nice homegoing,
Hmm.
but I want a great repast,
Hmm.
people playing bid. I want people drinking Pepsi and eating popcorn and jelly sour jelly bean. I want music to be played.
Hmm.
A friend of mine told a story about someone passing, and they went to the service, and what was playing in the background was, if you don't know me by now, you will never, ever, never know me. Right?
Yeah.
Hey, if you don't know me by now, you're never going to know me. But I want music. I want some loud rock. I'm really at heart a 70s rock chick. I
Hmm.
want some rock. I mean, I want a good time. I don't want people, crying over the casket, even though you can't help that.
Hmm.
You can't avoid that. You can't prevent it. I just want people to have a good time. I love music. I love the Lord.
Yeah.
My service, again, the entire obituary, photos, everything has
Hmm.
already been laid out and ready to go. All you have to do is put in the end date.
Wow. That's great. I got
Yeah.
to commend you on that one, because in my family, and I don't know why on earth I used to say this, but I coined myself as the obituary lady for the family, because I was the one responsible for the obituaries. And what here, the interesting thing is, I am just a huge fan of pictures throughout. So I have created the magazine format for
Yes.
obituary because I want those memories,
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. I don't see anything wrong with it. But I'm not so busy planning for death that I'm
Yeah.
not living.
Good.
I don't want anyone to think that,
Right.
um,
Yeah.
because that's just not the case.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to be as helpful as I can. Listen, we can talk about this forever, but the Enneagram
Mhm.
is, I want to say it's a personality um, assessment. It helps people to identify who they are. Well, I am a 2,
Okay.
and a 2 on the Enneagram is a helper.
Okay.
That's who I am. I want to help. And so I figure by me planning everything out, I'm helping. I'm
Mhm.
helping. Y'all don't have to do anything. This
Right.
is how I want it to look.
Right.
Everything. So yeah.
So I do want to ask you though, what was in writing your book? Because we were supposed to talk about the book, but I really feel like this context, this background was very important. How did you come up with the title, Releasing Her, Wrestling Peace from the Jaws of Alzheimer's?
All right. Listen, I am a different kind of a bird. I'm just telling you.
Mhm.
I would sit there and just say, releasing her, like releasing her. Like if there was something about the word her um, that I fell in love with. I wasn't releasing my mother, like trying to forget her.
Mhm.
I was releasing her so that more memories would come flooding back to me, so that I would remember her even more. And so each title of each chapter title has her, worshiping with her, loving her, remembering her. And so it was really that her that
Mhm.
got me. And then wrestling peace from the jaws of Alzheimer's. I went back and forth. Was it wrestling victory from the jaws of Alzheimer's? But I believe I'm at peace. I still think Alzheimer's originates from the pits of hell.
Mhm.
I think that's where it came from, and I think that's where it needs to go back. But it was just playing around with that word and listening to myself say it over and over and over again that made me fall in love with it. I am a butterfly person. I love butterflies. And so the butterfly on the cover of the book um, is just significant. It's symbolic of a transformation, a transition. So my mom transitioned from this life to eternal life with
Mhm.
God our Father. And so it was important for me to have that butterfly there as well. I'm looking at a copy of it. So
Can we see a copy of your book, Cheryl?
absolutely. I would love to do that. It's got all of my little notes in
Oh,
it. You can
yes.
see my ring light a little, but yeah, it's got all of my little tabs in it from
Mhm.
when I do book readings and things like that. The excerpts that I read. And so which I would love to do.
I would love for you to read an excerpt. And I wanted to know, how long did it take you to write Releasing Her? And at what point did you decide that you were going to write this book?
So I don't know when I decided this because I write so much.
Mhm.
I have lots of things in the hopper. I've got, book drafts. I've got all that stuff. I've got poems, everything, right? But I was writing notes. I remember I went to pick up Chinese food and I had to pull over because I just lost it. I
Mm.
started crying
Mhm.
and I just started writing. I used my phone to capture notes. Again, on pieces of paper, whatever I had, that's how I captured notes. And it wasn't until um, she had passed that I kept saying, wow, look at these notes. And, what am I going to do with these? And so I just I started thinking about putting them all together, and it turned into a book. Now, at the beginning of each chapter is one verse from the 23rd Psalm, which was her favorite Psalm.
Mhm.
I also included um, the song, an inspirational song that maybe my mom liked or that I absolutely loved.
Mhm.
And those are embedded there. So it was an opportunity to put a lot of pieces together to write a book that I thought would be helpful for someone else who was also experiencing what we had experienced.
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, once I had it all together, I thought, well, now I might as well, investigate publishing this. And I would not give it to a publishing company
Mhm.
because I didn't want anyone to tell me no.
Yeah.
This is a book about my mom. This is my tribute to her. There's no way I'm going to let anybody tell me no. And that's how the self-publishing came
Mhm.
about. And I've enjoyed that process
Mhm.
immensely.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's what happened. And
Okay.
I pulled things from a long time ago that I had written.
Mhm.
Remembering her, I wrote, oh my goodness, I'm sure I wrote that in the 90s.
Wow.
Yeah. So I just went back and looked at it and said, that's got to go in.
Mhm.
And yeah, so that's what I did. Yeah.
I would love for you to read an excerpt from.
I would love that.
Mhm.
And so this is from chapter 2, introducing her. And the inspirational song is Something About That Woman by Lakeside.
Okay.
Yes. My paternal grandmother, Clara May, affectionately called Duck by my father and others close to her, was clear about how my mother and father got together. My father saw her, liked her, and then stole her from my grandfather's house. That's what Duck told me. Your daddy stole your mama from Mr. George's house. When I asked my mother about the validity of that story, she laughed. Duck ain't got no sense. She always said that's what happened, but it wasn't like that at all. I never got the full and complete story, so I was left to use my romantic imagination to fill in the blanks. In my mind, it always goes something like this. My father looked at her as she passed him on the road one day, fell in love with her, and chose her. Out of all the ladies who swooned over my father, the baseball player, the military man, the quartet singer, the dapper dresser, he picked her. After he got cleaned up following a baseball game, he and his buddies would look good and smell good. They would drive around in a clean car, and that's when he spotted her again. He talked to her, and my mother smiled because she had not seen too many men who looked like him with his wavy hair and long eyelashes. He courted her, bringing gifts to her brothers and sisters and to Mr. George. She liked him as much as he liked her. My grandfather was not ready to give permission for my father to marry Mama, and Daddy knew that. One afternoon, Daddy went to my grandfather's house and called for Mama to come out on the porch, and that's when it happened. He stole her with no extra clothes for the trip, just those on her back. He didn't give her time to say goodbye. If she was cooking something or washing the dishes that day, the chores didn't get completed. He stole her. They went to the justice of the peace and he married her. The rest is Watkins family history.
Love it.
I love
We
that
love
my
it.
grandmother told me, your daddy stole your, that's how it happened. And so again, being, able to take some creative license,
Mhm.
that's exactly what I did. So yeah.
I love it. I love it. Where can people get your book? Where can they get Releasing Her?
They can get it on Amazon. It is absolutely available there. I do book talks in person and on virtual platforms, so
Mhm.
via Zoom. They can also go to my website, CherylDWatkins.com. There's probably more information there than anyone would ever need. You can access my link tree and get even more information. Some of the podcasts that I've done in the past, just about life. interviews about the book, about Alzheimer's. You can get just a bunch of stuff there. So any of those ways you can also access purchasing the book.
Well, I am so happy that you said yes to spending some time with me talking about your mother, because I feel like I just have this picture, this image of your mom, just in listening to you talk about her. And I just absolutely love how your face lit up as you were reading that excerpt introducing her.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. My mother was my best friend. Um, and actually, all of my sisters would say the exact same thing. Our cheerleader, our go-to for advice, um, our, confidant, although she ran her mouth like water, but still, just, everything. My mother was my biggest cheerleader, my biggest supporter. So it's been my pleasure to spend some time with you, definitely, and just talk about her. Listen, I am so proud of you. I am so proud of you. You talk about how I managed dealing with Alzheimer's and my mom and working. Look at you, raising your children, your beyond important job, and now a podcast, and a successful one. You mentioned Aginah Musherah, and people go, light it up. That's right. Yes, that lead, inspire, that transform, that empower. I love it. I love it. And I'm so proud of you. So very proud.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I really do. And I don't want you to make me cry, because what many people probably don't know, because I don't really talk about it that much, is that I launched the podcast in January 2020 um, as a way to stay connected to my father
Hmm.
after he passed away.
Hmm.
Um, the year that he passed away, actually, exactly, I released my book, Women Who Persevere, in March of 2019, but I had my book launch event in June of 2019. And my dad passed away exactly a month later, unexpectedly. And, my dad had a television program for like 30 plus years. And he would always try to have me on as a guest every now and then, and tried to encourage me to have my own segment talking about education. But my dad and I are so much alike that I wanted to do things my way, and not the way he wanted me to do it.
Right.
And yeah, after I wrote the book and released it, I was just trying to figure out a way that I could have my own platform, but not necessarily be in front of a camera. But then COVID happened. And
Yeah.
so I figured, well, why not, in terms of bringing on different guests? But this is really a way that um, I find a connection with my father. And I kind of have some of his similar mannerisms. So if I go back and watch some of his old television shows, I'm like, oh my goodness, the similarities are there. So, but I really do appreciate your kind words, because I just wanted to be able to create a platform, honestly, where people can feel comfortable in sharing information that everyone can use. So,
Yes.
I don't care who you are, but if I feel like everyone has something that they can share that will be beneficial to someone else.
Yes.
So
Love it.
I I would love for you, because there's so much that we could also talk about. I would love to have you come back.
I would
Um,
love to come back.
yeah.
That would be so much fun.
I'm so glad that we had an opportunity to do this. And I do want to say, because I had an opportunity to come and see you speak last month, I think it was, out
Yeah,
in Oak Brook.
September.
September, yeah.
Yeah.
And you are a dynamic speaker. Let me just tell you, I just love the way you're gonna get a little bit of singing.
Yes, I'm gonna work it in.
You're gonna work it in, but I absolutely loved your message. Very, very inspiring, I think, to all of those women in the room working in the field of education. And that's what we need, to find ways to pour into each other, because we are all, giving of ourselves to others. And we didn't even really touch on the way I wanted to, the balancing act of being a caretaker and still being expected to come out and perform every single day. So maybe we can touch on that a little bit more when you come back. But
I would love to. I can tell you that music plays a huge role. And so that's why there's music in the book. And you can also, at the back of the book, there's a QR code to get the songs.
wow.
Because that's the only way I could get through it. So yeah, we can talk about that. It'd be great.
Well, I thank you so very much for being so open and transparent and sharing your experience. I really appreciate it, because I know sometimes that can be difficult,
Oh,
just talking about these things. So I thank you so very much, and look forward to having you back on again sometime very, very soon.
thank
And
you.
for the listening and viewing audience, why don't you tell them one last time your website, so that they can find you, just in case somebody wants to book you for a speaking engagement or a book talk.
Well, come on, I'd love it. CherylDWatkins.com is my website. From there, you can get to my Monarch Education Consultants site. You can also get my link tree there. You can get everything there. So please, I would love to have the opportunity to share with more audiences. Thank you for that.
Awesome. Awesome. So thank you everyone for tuning in to this week's episode of Light It Up. As always, don't forget, if you haven't done so already, like the podcast on social media, make sure you share the podcast with others, and of course, subscribe. You can find Light It Up at www.lightitup, that's LITE, podcast.com. So until next week, don't forget to continue to light it up and shine bright like a diamond. Thanks for joining me this week on Light It Up. Make sure you visit my website at www.lightituppodcast.com or www.aginahmuhammad.com. You can also find me on social media using the handle @LightItUpPodcasts. If you like what you've heard, please be sure to hit the subscribe button so you'll never miss a show. While you're at it, I'd appreciate a rating on iTunes, or you can simply tell a friend about the show. Be sure to tune in every Tuesday for a new episode. Until next time, light it up and shine bright like a diamond.